The day after marrying my husband in a business alliance, suddenly, a line of text appeared before my eyes. Wawa, this must be the most painful period of the big shot's childhoods. A blind father brought home a wicked stepmother. Gemini must protect the younger sister. I threw my hands up and simply walked away from the situation. On the day of the divorce, the 3 children followed closely behind me and said firmly, "I'm going with Mom." A pair of large hands wrapped around my waist. And a deep voice whispered in my ear, "Aren't you taking the child's father with you? Is the wicked stepmother also coming to frame us twins now?" I was speechless at the barrage of comments. Sophia, am not someone who can't tell right from wrong. How is this framing? I'll ask one more time. Who did it? The 2 boys who looked as if they were cast from the same mold both shook their heads and pointed at each other. He did it. I rubbed my temples, my tone growing serious. Jacob, Harry, I'm giving you one last chance. Making mistakes isn't scary. What's scary is being a coward who lacks the courage to admit them. The 2 little rascals stuck out their tongues dismissively, showing no sign of remorse. I raised my hand, and the 2 of them instinctively flinched. Harry was the first to lose his temper. "Are you going to hit us too? When Dad comes back, he'll make sure you regret it." He was like a cornered wolf cub, his eyes bloodshot, as if ready to pounce and tear me apart at any moment. I let out a long sigh and firmly grabbed his arm. "Forget it, I'll be soft-hearted one more time. Open your hand," I commanded firmly. He reluctantly showed his palm. There was a shallow cut on his palm, and the blood was about to drip to the ground. It was from picking up the glass shards earlier. I fetched the first aid kit and personally applied the medicine for him. Endure the pain. You reached out to pick up the broken glass scattered all over the floor, so you got what you deserved. Anyway, your brother said you were the one who broke the vase, so it's only fair that you face the consequences. With that, Harry forced back the tears that had just welled up in his eyes. After applying medicine to his palm, I rolled up his sleeve and saw scars of varying depths and sizes. "Who hit you?" I had only been married into the family for a few days and was still unfamiliar with the children's situations. Receiving no response, I turned to ask Jacob, "Who hit you?" He kept his head down and remained silent. Not long after, he opened his mouth. "It's the nanny." I raised an eyebrow. It was one thing for Grant, as a father, to be indifferent and uninvolved. But how could he hire such an unreliable nanny? "All right, go to bed now. I won't hold today's incident against you, however. I still have a punishment." The 2 brothers, as if already accustomed to this, lowered their heads in resignation. "The punishment is, from now on, you must drink a glass of milk every night before bed and complete 2 pages of math homework every day." Ha ha ha, milk plus homework. Tremble in fear, be afraid. These were the 2 things I feared most as a child. "And now it's your turn." I looked at them with a sinister grin on my face. I saw the 2 of them looking at me with disbelief in their eyes. I felt even more pleased with myself, humming a little tune as I returned to my room. "Bro, is this normal?" Jacob couldn't answer his question. His 8-year-old brain simply couldn't comprehend the situation. "I hope she's not acting." "Mom, can I come in?" "Here she comes. Our adorable little sticky rice ball is here." "Get lost, wicked stepmother." I skillfully blocked out the barrage of comments, walked to the door, and crouched down to be at eye level with Lucy. "What's wrong?" Hearing my unconsciously raised voice, I wished I could slap myself twice. Damn it, encountering such an adorable creature, I tried my hardest but couldn't resist. Lucy's red and swollen eyes clearly showed she had been crying, and she spoke with a sob in her voice. "Mom, I was the one who broke the vase today. Please don't blame my brothers." I gently stroked her forehead. "Silly girl, the comments already told me, but I can't be soft-hearted." I pretended to be an elegant woman with an air of aloof nobility, casually nodding in response. "We're doomed." Seeing me like this, the little girl cried even harder. Tears fell drop by drop, and she wept endlessly. I quickly wiped her tears and said many words of forgiveness before the little girl finally calmed down. At night, I gently patted her back, humming a tuneless lullaby. "Sleep now, sleep, my little darling." Sigh. After all that commotion, this little girl insisted on staying in my room. "Mom, I'm so scared." I want to argue that I have no selfish motives. I'm just a wicked stepmother. I don't like having a sweet, soft little girl lying in my arms at all. It's just that she's too pitiful. While she was asleep, I secretly checked her arms. Damn, another bunch of big and small wounds. How could they lay hands on such a little girl? The little girl in my arms was sleeping soundly, tightly hugging my arm, mumbling something in her sleep. "No, I still can't fall asleep." Just thinking about those 3 little brats. They barely have any meat on their bones, and they're covered in wounds all over. Who could stand this? I didn't help them out of motherly love. I just did what any decent person would do. The next day, that nanny was brought before me. I looked at her with a smile. She was stout, well-fed, and even had a small gold bracelet on her wrist. It seemed she was living quite well, even better than the young masters and misses of the household. Don't be nervous. Auntie Kathy, today, I mainly want to thank you. You know how difficult it is for me as a stepmother. Fortunately, you've raised these children so well, which has saved me a lot of worry. Upon hearing this, Aunt Kathy straightened her back proudly. Not at all. I had no mood to listen to her nonsense and interrupted her with a wave of my hand. Let's take a look at the gift I prepared for Aunt Kathy first. In the blink of an eye, the villa's surveillance footage was projected right before her eyes. In the footage, her face was vicious as she beat 3 children with a cane until they were covered in bruises, and she deliberately targeted areas that others couldn't see, skipping meals every other day. Children who are still growing end up pale and thin as a result, even though Jacob and Harry, the 2 boys, barely had enough to eat themselves. They still saved most of their food for their little sister. And what about Aunt Kathy herself? I eat different foods every day, and I'm almost as round as a ball. I've already checked the surveillance footage. It's not true that I feel nothing. 3 children without a mother, and now their father doesn't love them either. If their father hadn't left them a fortune of billions, I might have shed a tear. The only thing left in my miserable life is money. The video is edited, featuring only the highlights I carefully selected. Aunt Kathy's flabby body trembled, and cold sweat dripped from her forehead. With a thud, she dropped to her knees. Madam, I beg you, let me go. I still have elderly parents and young children to support. While shouting, she wriggled toward me and grabbed my leg. I kicked her away in disgust. The security guard pinned her to the ground, but she continued to struggle and resist. You have children, yet you dare to do such a wicked thing. Abusing children, stealing a huge amount of property. Just think about how many years you'll have to spend in prison. Aunt Kathy was already in tears, and she kept kowtowing non-stop, not even stopping when she started bleeding. I watched her every move with a cold gaze. Look, if it weren't for facing death, the wicked would never know repentance. A man's behavior becomes good when he is about to die. While in the midst of the trial, I noticed a gaze from the doorway. I opened the door and saw the 3 little ones tumbling down together. Did you all see that? No one answered. Only Aunt Kathy's yelling could be heard in the room. I closed the door behind me, shutting out the noise from inside. As the oldest of the 3, Jacob was the first to speak. Why are you helping us? The little boy in front of her looked serious, his eyelashes fluttering, and there seemed to be a glimmer of tears in his eyes. At this moment, the barrage was already in an uproar. Baby, don't believe her. The wicked stepmother is inherently evil. She can't suddenly change her nature. Even so, doesn't anyone else think this way makes mom feel really secure? The latter were ultimately in the minority, disappearing without a trace amidst the chorus of agreement from the former. I raised an eyebrow and sneered with a disdainful smile. Overthinking it. Who do you think you are? Do you expect me to stand up for you? I hit her only because she also stole my jewelry. It's very expensive. The 3 of you combined couldn't afford even half of it. With every word I spoke, the twin brothers' faces grew paler. Only Lucy, with her innocent and wide, sparkling eyes, looked at me in confusion. Under the radiance of her big, expressive eyes, even if I had 1,000 venomous words, I couldn't bring myself to speak them. So adorable. The old aunt nearly had a nosebleed. I picked up Lucy in one go and weighed her in my hands. So light. So this girl only has a bit of meat on her face. Looking at the 2 boys standing there, they were even shorter than their peers, skinny as rails. I cursed Aunt Kathy 10,000 times in my heart again. Let's go, time to eat. At the dinner table, I watched those 2 skinny monkeys devour their food ravenously. I felt both pity and disgust. Actually, the bullet comments already said it. Even if I don't take action now, when these 2 kids grow up, Aunt Kathy will be the first to be targeted. But I can't stand it anymore. She doesn't deserve to enjoy another decade of comfort. She should face the consequences sooner. I believe that good deeds bring good rewards, and likewise, evil deeds bring evil consequences. Hurry up and grow. What the heavens owe you is yet to come. Thinking of this, I raised my hand and gave each of them another helping of vegetables. You finished all the meat. What am I supposed to eat? Kids can just have some vegetables. Are you saying my Lucy did this to him? Looking at this pig's head in front of me, I can hardly recognize what it originally looked like. When I first got the call from Lucy's teacher, I didn't believe it at all. How could my innocent, adorable, and soft little rice ball get into a fight at kindergarten? Could it be that she was the one who got beaten up? As soon as I walked in, I saw a pig-headed child here crying bitterly. Meanwhile, Lucy was squatting in the corner, silently wiping away her tears, like an unclaimed little mushroom. The kind that's even a bit fuzzy. As soon as she saw me come in, she rushed straight into my arms, her voice choked with tears, sobbing as she spoke. "Mom, he called me. Seeing her unable to speak for a long time, I gently stroked her back to comfort her. "It's okay, Mom is here now. Take your time and tell me. He called me an orphan." After saying this, Lucy completely broke down in tears. Tears gradually soaked my shoulder. "Teacher Max, I hope to have an explanation." I glanced at the livid expression on the mother of pig head meat and then looked at the teacher. Well, Lucy's mom, after all, it was little Lucy who hit the classmate. "We'll cover the medical expenses. Is that enough?" Pighead's mother pointed at me angrily. "What do you take us for? Do you think we care about your family's petty money? I want you to apologize to my son." I looked at her coldly and spoke in a low voice. "Make my daughter apologize. Do you even deserve it? You don't want your son to become an orphan, do you?" The other person trembled with anger, pointing at my nose and cursing. "My husband is a school board member. Aren't you afraid your daughter will be expelled?" I carried the sobbing Lucy to the door. "You probably don't know which tailor Lucy Taylor's tailor is, do you?" The other person froze for a moment, then snapped back to reality after a few seconds. In the entire city there was only one Taylor family worth mentioning. That is Grant Taylor's tailor. After dealing with Lucy's matter, I was called to the hospital again. "The child is physically fine, just too tired. Parents need to make sure the child gets more rest." I listened obediently to the doctor and nurse's scolding, not daring to say anything. Jacob had already woken up on the hospital bed. He was quietly watching me being scolded at the moment. I carefully saw the doctors and nurses off, then turned to look at him. "I'm sorry." Jacob lowered his head and spoke in a faint voice. I walked aside, picked up the fruit knife, and started peeling an apple. "No need to apologize." I handed the apple to him. "When the teacher called and said you had fainted, we were all very worried about you." Despite his young age, Jacob is quite mature for his years. As the eldest child at home, he always carries the burden of taking care of his younger siblings, even though he is still just a little kid himself. He always thinks about the other two. Schoolwork is no challenge for him, but he stays up late every night studying ahead. I just exhausted myself. I gently tucked him in and said softly, "You are the older brother, but you are also my child. Rest well." Jacob sat on the hospital bed. The apple in his hand had already oxidized, yet he still hadn't taken a bite. This was the first time he had received an apple that someone else had peeled for him. After school in the afternoon, I looked at Harry, who had been beaten black and blue, and felt so angry that my heart ached. These three kids, Grant and the others, are each more troublesome than the last. Who do you think you are, daring to pick a fight with someone as soon as you go up? Though they are twins, their personalities are worlds apart. Jacob is quiet and steady, never causing any trouble, but Harry is a born troublemaker. Fighting every other day is giving me a headache, but he secretly took a picture up that girl's skirt. Then you should quickly find an adult to stop him, or go to the police for help, instead of rushing in yourself. Harry looked like a deflated balloon after my words. Even the tuft of hair on his head drooped. I gently applied the medicine to him. "First of all, I want to praise you. You kindly helped the police officer catch the bad guy and also helped that sister. You did nothing wrong, but you can't disregard your own safety. What if that bad guy had seriously harmed you? Your brother and sister are still waiting for you to come home." Her hand unconsciously rested on his head and gently stroked it. "Don't forget, there are people waiting for you at home. I've almost become the nanny for three little rascals now, every day. Either the older one is throwing a tantrum or the younger one is clinging to my leg and crying. I work as diligently as an old ox in the field to raise my children, but I still can't escape the predetermined fate of being a wicked stepmother." That day, I finally managed to send the three little ones off to school and was about to dive into the mall for a shopping spree, but then I was suddenly thrown into a sack. "Behave and call Grant." A sharp knife moved up and down my body, its threatening intent unmistakable. Finally, it's the scene where the wicked stepmother gets tied up. She deserves it. I rolled my eyes inwardly. It's rare for me to go out, and I had to run into such bad luck. Why is my life so miserable? The comments all say this is what I owe the three of them. It should have been the three of them who were kidnapped, but I have a bunch of bodyguards watching them every day, especially around the youngest, Lucy. As a result, the bandits flew into a rage out of humiliation. Since they couldn't catch Grant's son, they took his wife instead, and just like that, I was kidnapped. Every call to Grant went unanswered, and the bandits' expressions grew increasingly grim. I pinched the flesh on my waist hard, forcing out a few tears. Well, big brother, I told you he wouldn't answer my call. Our marriage was purely a business arrangement. It's one thing that he doesn't love me. But he even flew abroad the day after our wedding, not even bothering to put on a show for appearances, and he left me with 3 kids. Big brother, being a stepmother is no easy task. I might as well just die. After saying that, I pretended to run into a nearby pillar to end my life. A few of the bandits seemed to be intimidated by my bluff and quickly stopped me. They also put away their knives and gathered in a corner, whispering among themselves. That was enough. As long as I could buy some time, I would find a way to escape. I go to pick up the 3 little ones from school every day myself. If I don't go, my family should notice that I'm missing. Just then, several piercing screams were heard, and all the bandits fell to the ground. A man in a trench coat, exuding a chilling aura with a dark expression, looked down at their miserable state. It's Grant, Jacob. Harry darted out from behind him and ran over to help me untie the rope. Are you okay? Harry asked awkwardly, his emotions written all over his face like a child's. He clearly wanted to show concern but didn't know how to swallow his pride, so he could only ask in an awkward, hesitant way, "Sorry I'm late." Grant also walked up to me and picked me up in one swift motion. "Hey, don't." I wanted to resist, but the way I had been tied up earlier had left my hands and feet numb, making it impossible for me to struggle. Plus, with Grant's unyielding gaze sweeping over me, I didn't dare resist any further. How outrageous. Clearly, it was his rival company that had me tied up, yet now he's acting as if I owe him another life. Oomph. I gave the 2 guys a look, signaling them to come and help me. The 2 of them acted as if they were blind, completely ignoring me. It was like casting amorous glances at a blind man. "Mom, I'm so glad you're okay. I was so worried about you." As soon as we got home, the little one rushed into my arms and cried non-stop, completely ignoring her father standing nearby. After I finished crying, I realized there was someone else beside me. "Huh, why are you back?" Grant looked at me with an indescribable expression. "Let's talk." This is the first time I've been alone with Grant. On our wedding day, he rushed off to catch an evening flight, leaving me alone in an empty room. "Thank you, you've taken good care of them." I cursed silently in my heart. Why don't you show your gratitude with actions? Who doesn't know how to make empty promises? I simply stopped pretending and spoke directly. "Let's get a divorce." He seemed shocked by my words and didn't respond for a long time. "You're too tired today. Get some rest early." I shook my head and continued. "I'm very clear-headed right now, Grant. Our marriage was a business arrangement from the start. I don't expect you to be a perfect husband, but you're not even a decent father. It's only now that they've realized I can be a competent nanny that they've accepted me, but I cannot accept a husband like you. So, let's get a divorce." "Enough." Grant rubbed his furrowed brow. "I'm tired. I need to rest first. Let's both calm down for a moment." I knew in my heart that divorce wasn't something that could be resolved quickly, so I simply left. At night, I heard some noise at the door and chuckled to myself. Fortunately, I locked the door in advance. "Still want to sleep in the same bed with me? Get lost." Actually, after watching so many days of bullet comments, I've long known what my identity is, the wicked stepmother in a domineering CEO's wife-chasing story. But these 3 children are not the domineering CEOs and the innocent heroines. They are the children of the domineering CEO's older brother. It's that cliché. The older brother passed away, and the younger brother is helping to raise his brother's children. And the little white flower will take care of these 3 children with all her heart after I'm gone, in stark contrast to me, and the domineering CEO will fall in love with her kindness and innocence because of this. The 3 children will also wholeheartedly accept her as their mother. The family of 5 is happy and content, and they will even continue to add new members. I am the first sacrifice on their path to happiness. Under my torment, the twin brothers became gloomy and withdrawn. While Lucy will suffer from severe depression, I have also doubted the authenticity of the bullet comments, but one incident after another happened right before my eyes. I had no choice but to believe. Even the fact that I was kidnapped had been predicted long ago. That's why I brought up the divorce. It's not safe to stay here. running is the best strategy. The next day, as soon as I stepped out of my room, I was pulled into the children's room by the three little ones. I stared at the row of astronomical numbers on the computer screen, my head buzzing. Did you earn all of this? The twins nodded. Of course. I gritted my teeth in silent bitterness. We're all human, so why is the gap so vast? When I was 8, I was still playing with mud, but these two brats are already trading stocks. The protagonist's children are just different. I'll give them all to you, Harry whispered, his face turning red. Give it all to me. I raised an eyebrow, unable to believe his words. I'm the wicked stepmother, and you're offering me money so eagerly. The two of them nodded. We all heard that you're going to divorce Dad. Can you take us with you? I was stunned by these words, my mouth agape, feeling as if my jaw might dislocate. Seeing me like this, Jacob quickly said, we are all very sensible and won't spend your money. We can earn our own. We will also take care of our younger sister, so you don't need to worry about it. Is it okay? Looking at their big, wet eyes was like watching two little puppies wagging their tails and begging for pity. Well, maybe it's not entirely impossible. Just treat it as keeping a few talking pets. The barrage started arguing again. Ah, babies, what are you doing? How can you go with this evil woman? Stop arguing upstairs. The stepmother is already very good. If you hate her so much, are you lacking love? The gears of fate have long been turning, and it seems as if everything has been rewritten. For the sake of the three little ones, I temporarily suppressed my desire for a divorce. Moreover, there is still some time before the female lead, the innocent white flower, makes her appearance. By then, it will still be time to abscond with the money and the children. Ever since I mentioned divorce, Grant has completely vanished. I can't find him anywhere. I was leisurely applying a face mask when the doorbell suddenly rang. Standing outside the door was a graceful young woman. The young girl's eyes sparkled with confidence, carrying a spirit unique to youth. Madam, my name is Willa. I'm here to pick up some documents for the CEO. Wow, the female lead has finally appeared. The moment I saw the words, female lead, in the bullet comments, I nearly jumped out of my skin. Why did she appear already? Didn't you say there was still some time left? But soon, I calmed down. Come in. Willa was very proper, as if she had only come for work. Grant's study is the second room on the left upstairs. I raised my hand to point the way for her, but my fingertips trembled slightly, watching her figure ascend the stairs. I quietly moved my escape plan up the schedule. Grant never allows anyone into his study on ordinary days. Even I have only been there once. Now, letting Willa in directly speaks volumes about the trust. The comments in the bullet chat say that the two of us look somewhat alike, but I don't think so. If I had to point out a similarity, it would be that we both have a small red mole at the corner of our eyes. Grant finally decided to come back. I asked him directly during dinner, who was the one that came to the house today, an assistant. I don't know if he's being sparing with his words or simply unwilling to talk to me. After he finished speaking, no one at the dinner table said another word. In the evening, as I watched Grant lying in bed early, I turned and headed toward the guest room. Unexpectedly, he grabbed my hand and pinned me down on the bed. The difference in strength between men and women is so great that I simply couldn't resist. Don't you like her? I lowered my eyes and remained silent, as if understanding what I meant. He spoke softly. Then I'll transfer her to another department tomorrow. With that, he leaned in and kissed me, attempting to take things further. I was so startled by his action that I slapped him. Grant was also stunned by my slap and didn't continue. I pushed him away and ran towards the door. I didn't dare to look back at his expression. I only heard a low chuckle from behind. Damn, I must have knocked him silly. Since that day, Willow was sent abroad by him to study and exchange at a branch company. That slap completely shattered the wall between us. Grant came home more and more often, always sticking by my side. The three little ones are also inseparable. Sometimes, I clearly fall asleep holding Lucy, but when I wake up, there are 4 people lying on the bed, but none of this can stop me from running away. I really don't want to end up with the tragic death that the bullet comments predicted. During this time, I haven't been idle either. I sold all kinds of jewelry, clothes, and bags to cash out. I didn't dare to sell all the properties. Only a few small apartments, mainly afraid that Grant would notice. Now, I only have this last set left to sign the contract for. I arranged to meet the buyer at the apartment, but as soon as I entered, I saw Grant. I was so startled that I turned around to run away, but he grabbed me tightly. Why are you leaving? Why must we get a divorce? I pushed him away without saying a word. Truth be told, I couldn't come up with a convincing reason either. I couldn't exactly say that I could see the barrage of comments. And that you and the female lead were going to kill me in the end. If I did, he'd probably send me straight to a psychiatrist. Blaming others first is my fine virtue, but I've gone over it several times in my head. Apart from not loving me, he seems to have no other flaws. He can give me everything I want, and I can even have 3 children without any pain. Can you give me a chance? He spoke almost pleadingly. Damn it. I'm actually, shamefully, moved, in fact. This business marriage was something I begged for in the first place. During my student years, I had silently admired him for nearly a decade. Since middle school, the name Grant had always been around me. It made me unconsciously pay attention to any information about him. What awards he won today, which girls confessed their feelings to him. On the day I found out he was going to enter into a political marriage, I practically threw myself at him, but the barrage of comments poured cold water on me. Over and over again. But now that Grant is standing right in front of me, a living, breathing person, how could I not be moved? Then let's give it a try. As soon as I said that, I wanted to slap myself. Serves me right for ending up getting killed by him. Damn love-struck brain. Grant, however, felt as if he had been granted a pardon, and he held me tightly in his arms. This time, please believe me. Since that heart-to-heart conversation, the barrier between us was completely broken. He turned down a lot of work and stayed at home wholeheartedly to keep him company. He made the breakfast himself in the morning, although it didn't look very appealing. At least it wasn't hard to swallow. How is it? Is it tasty? Seeing him like this now, I can't help but feel a little amused. Is this still the aloof and domineering CEO I used to know? The contrast is a bit too stark. He's also coming with me to the parent-child event at Lucy's kindergarten. At first, I was a bit unskilled. But later I practically became a model dad. Many moms have been urging me to start a class. How on earth did you manage to train your husband like this? That day, my friend and I were out having fun a bit late. When I got home, I found the lights were already off. I thought they had all gone to bed, which put my mind at ease. But as soon as I turned on the light, I saw 3 little ones standing in front of me. Jacob and Harry each held a party popper and set them off at me. I was startled by the 3 of them and also saw Grant standing in the center. Lucy stepped forward, took my hand, and pulled me toward Grant. Sophia, will you marry me again? I admit that many of my actions have made you uneasy. I hope this time, I can become a husband who satisfies you. He knelt before me, his eyes full of sincerity. The barrage of comments that had just been arguing suddenly disappeared. All that remained before my eyes was Grant holding the ring. A voice echoed in my mind once again. Congratulations, host, on fulfilling your wish. I was confused by the voice in my head, but it continued to speak. The bullet comments you saw were a bug caused by our work error. We thought the story was rewritten because of Willa's awakening, but Willa's data showed no abnormalities. Instead, it was you, through dying unjustly again and again, that allowed us to discover the existence of the bullet comments. To compensate you, the main god has placed the power of choice in your hands this time. Your future life belongs entirely to you. It turns out that Grant was actually my husband all along, while Willa was merely the cannon fodder supporting character. However, in countless previous cycles of reincarnation, both my fate and Willa's had been rewritten. As I stood there in a daze, Grant slipped the ring onto my finger and gently kissed me. Madam, welcome home. Since I agreed not to divorce, Grant has become increasingly presumptuous. Sometimes, even when the children are nearby, he starts getting handsy. Sophia, those 2 boys are complaining it's not fair. She only has 1 sister, and they can't divide it equally. As parents, you have to be fair to everyone. It's time to add a new member to the family. His words made me blush, and just as I wanted to argue, his kiss silenced me. The kiss was deep and urgent, as if he hadn't tasted meat in years. I was kissed until my body went weak, so I had no choice but to let him do whatever he wanted to me. Extra Chapter 1, Willa. I studied diligently for over a decade, finally graduated, and found a job, but it turned out I was just the cannon fodder supporting female character in a domineering CEO novel. And the domineering CEO is our president, Grant. My life is so hard, with so much social pressure. I still don't dare to resign. I can only work cautiously, avoiding the CEO, afraid that if I get too close, the female lead will suddenly appear in front of me. Damn it, Jack's secretary had an upset stomach and actually wanted me to go to the CEO's house to get the documents. I pressed the doorbell with a sense of resignation, and the door was opened by a woman wearing a facial mask. She is beautiful, completely different from me. if I am a sunflower facing the morning sun. Then she is a graceful and luxurious peony. I couldn't figure it out. How could someone like me ever stand in the way of the love between the male and female leads? Is it just because both the female lead and I have a mole under our eye? The next day, Secretary Jack informed me that I would be going to the overseas branch for a learning exchange. With tears in my eyes, I held Secretary Jack's hand and expressed my gratitude. Thank you for the company's cultivation and trust in me. I will definitely. Before I could finish speaking, I was packed onto a plane, a business trip at the company's expense. So awesome, getting away from the male and female leads. So awesome, it's just absolutely amazing. To hell with being a cannon fodder supporting female character. Earning money is way more satisfying than fighting over a man. Extra Chapter 2, Grant. They always said there was a very pretty freshman in the 10th grade. I used to scoff at that, until the only performance day at school. The junior participated in the play. The play was Letter from an Unknown Woman. The junior looked out at the audience and delivered that classic line, I have never grown tired of loving you in my entire life. For a moment, it felt like our eyes met, as if those words were spoken to me. Later, I learned the junior's name, Sophia. It sounds lovely, and it would pair well with my name on the same marriage certificate. Since marrying Sophia and bringing her home, I often have dreams. I dream of things that are completely opposite to reality. Not only do the 3 children not like Sophia, they even feel a sense of disgust toward her. She also died at the hands of bandits, but I wasn't sad at all, as if there was no love between us. Later, I actually had an assistant from the company come back to take care of the child. I even married her. This is simply unbelievable. After waking from the dream, I often have people keep an eye on Sophia, but she is nothing like the one in my dream. She is fully devoted to the 3 children. Lucy likes her the most and insists on sleeping with her every day. Although the twins didn't say it out loud, their hearts and eyes were always on her. Yes, dreams are the opposite of reality. She is still my wife, and I love her very much. No one can take her away from me. Even she herself is not allowed. Extra Chapter 3, Jacob. Uncle finally found a wife. Oh, no, I should call him Dad now. So this beautiful woman is also my mother now. Our previous nanny. Aunt Kathy always said, stepmothers are all vicious, much harsher than I am with you. You're the older brother, so you should do more than your younger siblings. So I never dared to stop, because I was afraid that if I slowed down even a step, the stick would fall on my younger brother and sister. Her appearance was too sudden, and her behavior was too unusual. It's different from what Aunt Kathy said. I simply can't understand her. I fainted, and when I opened my eyes, she was right beside me. I was so afraid she would scold me. Even though I was the older brother, I was the first to collapse. But she didn't, and she even peeled an apple for me. She said, you are the older brother, but you are also my child. After she left, warm tears fell drop by drop. It's strange, I didn't cry when I was beaten before. I didn't cry when I was hungry either. So why am I crying now? Extra Chapter 4. Harry, I am a child without parents, although our uncle adopted us. He didn't have time to take care of us. To survive under Aunt Kathy, I had no choice but to fight back. If I hadn't fought back, I probably wouldn't have made it this far. The new mother is truly a strange person. Clearly, we should be a burden to her, but in her eyes, there has never been any disdain. She applied medicine to my wounds, scolding me as a fool with strong limbs but a simple mind, but I quietly felt my eyes welling up. Don't forget, we're still waiting for you to come home. Okay, Mom. I didn't dare to speak, only dared to say it silently in my heart. If I just casually acknowledged her, where would that leave the face of the little tyrant? Extra Chapter 5, Lucy. I was a jinx who caused the death of my parents the moment I was born. To protect me, my brothers were often beaten black and blue. Someone like me, do I really deserve to live? From the moment I was born, suffering has been my companion. Even I myself have lost all hope in life. But she told me, you were born as a child full of love, and your parents loved you until their last breath. Your brothers also did their best to give you the best they could. Me too, so I could be loved too. I could sleep in my mother's fragrant embrace every day. You don't have to envy other people's lives. You have a happy home. Actually, I had seen her photo from my dad before. It was secretly tucked in a book on the bottom shelf of the bookcase. I accidentally found it. That is her graduation photo. Not far behind, her father stood there, smiling at her. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, There is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I was reborn as the stepmother of the male lead in a redemption novel. The male lead was abandoned by his biological mother, disliked by his father, bullied by the female lead at school, and in the end, he would fall in love with the bully and be redeemed by her. In the principal's office, I looked at the bullied male lead, took a kitchen knife out of my bag, and threw it on the table. Take the knife and kill that little bitch who bullied you. Redemption, redemption my ass, save yourselves, all of you. The principal's office was dead silent. Everyone was stunned by my action of pulling a kitchen knife from my bag and telling Sam to kill Max, the bully who had tormented him. Sam looked at me in surprise. Mom, isn't this a bit inappropriate? Max, who had been bullying him, stared at the kitchen knife on the table, his face pale with fear, the arrogance from moments ago completely gone. I picked up the kitchen knife and walked toward the principal, who had been blaming Sam all along, and threatened, say one more word about my son being at fault and see what happens. The principal looked at the kitchen knife, sweating profusely from fear. Please, calm down. First, I held the kitchen knife closer. Your son is being bullied and a group of people are slandering him. Can you really stay calm? Just as I was about to lose control, the lawyer sent by Sam's father arrived. The lawyer was clearly taken aback by the scene before him, but being a top-tier lawyer with an 8-figure annual salary, he quickly regained his composure. He approached me and whispered in my ear, if you act like this, they'll have leverage against us. Please trust me to handle this. I promise you'll be satisfied with the outcome. I nodded, put away the kitchen knife, and took the still-dazed Sam by the hand to leave. As I reached the door, I turned to Max and said sarcastically, I wonder if your bankrupt father has enough money in his pocket to pay for your bullying behavior. This is the third day since I was reborn into this redemption novel. I looked at Sam standing silently in front of me and sighed quietly. The stepson before my eyes would eventually fall for this Max who bullied him in high school, pursuing her with the utmost humility, helping her achieve her artistic dreams, supporting her bankrupt parents, and completely becoming her devoted follower. All Max needed to do was to make Sam relive the pain she had inflicted on him in high school. Now that he was an adult, finally, she would tell Sam that she had fallen in love with him. She would say that she would spend the rest of her life making it up to him, healing him, and redeeming him. The ending would be the two of them living happily ever after. How can a victim fall in love with their bully and call this twisted love? Redemption. I don't know what kind of trash wrote this redemption story. At first, I got angry in a fit of rage, and the more I lay in bed thinking about it, the angrier I became. What? Do readers' mammary glands not count as mammary glands? I sprang up from the bed like a carp leaping out of water, then turned on my computer and furiously wrote an 8,000-word ranting book review. The moment I hit the send button, I felt refreshed and clear-headed, as if my mammary glands had never been so unblocked. Just as I was contentedly heading to the bathroom to enjoy my pooping time, an unexpected incident occurred. With one forceful push, my hemorrhoids burst. I suddenly stood up. But how could a fragile office worker's body withstand such a rapid movement? My vision went black, and I fell backward, hitting the back of my head squarely on the toilet. I died, a ridiculous death, a death without dignity. I didn't even have time to pull up my pants. Wait. I haven't checked if this stepmother has hemorrhoids yet. If she does, I might not be able to refuse surgery like I did in my previous life just because I was afraid of the pain. Sam looked at me timidly, as if he had something to say, but I couldn't care about that right now. Checking whether the original owner has hemorrhoids is the most important thing. Under Sam's gaze, I hurriedly ran to the bathroom to begin my life-saving check. I absolutely cannot die in such an absurd way in this lifetime. After the check, I let out a long sigh of relief. I will definitely stick to a light diet from now on. After coming out of the bathroom, I looked at Sam, who was still standing in the living room, and shared my life philosophy with him. When life gives you the middle finger, you just have to sit down and take it. After hearing this, Sam's pupils practically trembled with shock, and he opened his mouth without making a single sound. According to the original plot, the hardships he was about to face were still ahead. I wanted him to understand that when facing adversity, we must learn to accept it as it comes and avoid excessive internal struggle. I remember in the original book, Sam forgave everyone who had hurt him, except for this stepmother who ignored him. Isn't this a redemption story? He even forgave the bullies and fell in love with them. Yet he took revenge on the stepmother who ignored him. Am I some kind of despicable person? In the original book, Sam would later become an even more successful businessman than his father. dominating the business world in J City. To ensure I can live a comfortable and prosperous life in my old age, I must teach Sam what it means to save himself. After returning to his room, Sam opened his diary and wrote a sentence. My stepmother seems to have been possessed. I really wanted to sprinkle some glutinous rice on her. I almost couldn't hold back. Although I had already threatened Max, I still wasn't at ease, so I simply hid in the alley near the school, quietly observing every move at the school gate. When I arrived, the alley was already occupied by someone. What are you looking at, old lady? Watch out or I'll gouge your eyes out. A delinquent girl with a cigarette tucked behind her ear and school pants altered into the same tight-fitting style as rebellious girls threatened me fiercely. I looked at the faintly visible third eye in the middle of the spirited girl's brow and a plan popped into my head. I glanced at the cheap cigarette in the spirited girl's hand, then took out an expensive Huazi from my bag, placing one between my lips. Got a light? Lend me a fire. The spirited girl instinctively pulled a lighter from her pocket, pressing it with a bewildered expression. I leaned slightly closer to the flame, slowly blowing out a smoke ring, then offered the cigarette to her. Want a cigarette? The edgy girl looked at me as if I were insane, but the temptation of cigarette was too strong. She still took it, pulled out one, and tucked it behind her other ear. What's your name, Linda? I nodded. Good name. I took my time smoking. My son goes to the same school as you and is about your age. Linda's eyes widened instantly. Sis, you look so young to have a son about my age. Stepmom, right? I beamed with joy. Girl, you really have a good eye. Yes, I am indeed the stepmom. After finishing the cigarette, I tossed the butt on the ground, crushed it with the tip of my shoe, and then looked at Linda. You know it's not easy being a stepmother. My sister's son got bullied at school, and oh my. You should have seen his face all beaten up. Even I, as his stepmother, felt heartbroken. I leaned closer to Linda. Some things are just not convenient for us adults to handle. It's better when peers step in. Linda looked at me with a puzzled expression, his eyes so clear that foolishness was practically overflowing. I helplessly twitched the corner of my mouth. It seemed that if I didn't spell it out clearly, he wouldn't understand. I pulled a stack of money from my bag. Help me teach a lesson to the person who bullied my son. This money, and all the cigarettes you'll ever need, I'll cover it all. Linda's eyes instantly lit up, and he nodded repeatedly. Sis, make sure you stay far away when it happens. Don't let that scumbag's blood splatter on you. As Linda and I turned around, arms around each other's shoulders, I noticed Sam standing not far away, staring straight at us. His gaze shifted back and forth between Linda and me. Just as I was about to introduce them, Sam suddenly pulled something out of his pocket and expressionlessly threw it toward me. He shouted, "Evil spirits, be gone." Bits and pieces hit me, and I instinctively dodged. Linda, whom I was holding, was unjustly implicated and cursed. Damn it, I looked at the scattered items on the ground, completely baffled. Glutinous rice. Why is Sam throwing glutinous rice at me? Linda was furious. She rushed forward, grabbed Sam by the collar, and said fiercely, "What the hell gives you the right to throw things at my fortune god sister?" Sam was intimidated by Linda's fierce, street-smart demeanor. I quickly stepped forward to stop Linda. "This is my son." Unexpectedly, Linda became even angrier after hearing this. He directly slapped Sam hard on the back of his head, so furious that he didn't even notice the 2 cigarettes that fell from his ear. "You unfilial son. Even if she's your stepmother, you can't hit her, you ungrateful brat. My sister has been so worried about you, concerned that you might be bullied again at school, and this is how you treat her." Sam was stunned by the slap, listening to Linda's rapid-fire verbal attack with a look of astonishment. Sam looked at me timidly, I thought. Just as I was about to speak, the furious Linda beat me to it and snapped at him. "You thought? What did you think? Did you think my sister was possessed by a ghost? That we needed to scatter glutinous rice to ward off evil spirits?" At that moment, I was stunned. Could it be that after my rebirth, I had acted so differently from before that Sam thought I was possessed by a ghost? Upon hearing this, Sam instinctively nodded, then shook his head, and when he turned to meet my gaze, he nodded heavily again. His gaze was as resolute as if he were about to join the party. Linda snorted coldly and helped remove the sticky rice from my hair. Sam's eyes darted back and forth between me and Linda. He couldn't hold back his curiosity any longer. "Why does she call you sister?" I patted Linda on the shoulder. "This is the little sister I just recognized. From now on, she'll have your back at school. Don't just stand there. Call her auntie." Linda nodded with an air of seniority. "Nephew, if you ever get bullied at school, just drop my name. It works, Sam. Sam rubbed the back of his head, which was still throbbing with pain, and opened his diary. It seems my stepmother has struck some kind of financial deal with this delinquent girl, and she even wants me to call her auntie. When Dad gets back, I'll have to ask him to take my stepmother to see a psychiatrist. P.S. Sticky rice didn't work. I'll go to the Taoist temple during the holiday to have a Taoist priest draw a talisman for me. I don't know if it was Linda's protection or my warning that worked, but no new injuries appeared on Sam's face. Sam's father, Bob, is frequently away on business trips, so the household basically consists of just me, Sam, and the nanny. Sam sipped his milk unhurriedly, exuding the aura of a refined young master. If I didn't know how much suffering and abuse he endured in the book, just looking at his appearance would make one think he was a pampered rich kid. Have you been bullied at school lately? After hearing my question, Sam's chewing action noticeably paused for a moment. He shook his head. No. I took a satisfied sip of coffee. If anyone bothers you again, go find Linda. Sam hesitated for a moment. Linda hasn't been to school for several days. The classmates say she's going to drop out. He observed my expression and continued. The classmates said her parents are divorced, and neither of them wants her, so no one is supporting her to continue her studies. They're sending her back to the countryside to get married. I finished the remaining coffee in my cup and got up to return to my room. As I turned around, Sam's voice sounded behind me. Are unloved children all burdens? His voice was slightly choked. I turned to meet his glistening eyes but couldn't find the words to say. Because I am an orphan, I was abandoned on the day I was born. Simply because I am a girl, I have never been loved. So I don't know if an unloved child is a burden, but I think it must be a burden. After all, how could someone who is loved be abandoned? Linda's name does not appear in this book, because she is just one of the many meaningless NPCs in this novel. I don't know what her ending will be, but I know that people should always go to school. When I went downstairs after changing clothes, I saw a sticky note attached to my car keys. It was Sam's handwriting, with Linda's address written on it. Linda lived in the lower city, where dilapidated tube-shaped apartments were crammed together. My latest top-of-the-line Mercedes-Benz looked completely out of place amidst the chaotic and dirty environment. I weaved through the dense network of clotheslines. My attire clearly didn't belong here, and the auntie's probing gazes and incessant murmurs followed me as I passed. You worthless girl. Still thinking about going to school. Where would I get the money to send you to school? I've already found you a husband. In a couple of days you're coming back to our hometown with me to get married. I followed the sound and saw the man's finger repeatedly jabbing Linda's head. Tear stains were visible on Linda's face, and she said stubbornly, I want to go to school. You can't even earn money yourself. What right do you have to plan my life? Enraged by her words, the man raised his hand to hit her. I quickly rushed over and shielded Linda in my arms. Smack. The moment the slap landed on my face, I regretted wearing high heels today. Damn, it's messing with my ability to go crazy. I've always followed the policy of, if someone throws mud at me, I'll lie down and demand 88,000 from them. So after taking that slap, I just lay down on the ground. Oh my God, my teeth are knocked out. Get me to the hospital quickly. I feel dizzy and nauseous. Could it be a concussion? Linda's father was stunned by my shameless act and stammered. Where did this wretched woman come from? She must be trying to scam me for money. Linda was so anxious she started crying. Sis, are you okay? I subtly winked at her, and surprisingly, the not-so-bright kid from the alley had become much smarter. She immediately understood my intention. Dad, how could you beat someone into a concussion? You could go to jail for this. Linda's father grew even more panicked. You suddenly jumped out. I lay flat on the ground, completely still. All right. So you're going to play dirty with me. Let's see how you explain this to the police. Human nature is inherently curious, and within seconds, a crowd had already gathered around. The police arrived very quickly, and as soon as they got there, my lawyer showed up right after. At the police station, I held my head and raised an eyebrow at my lawyer, who immediately understood. My client is already disoriented. There's no chance of settling this. Linda's father jumped up from his chair in anger. You wretched woman, it was you who suddenly darted out, and now you're trying to frame me. The police officer slapped the table. Watch your language. Speak properly. Linda's father immediately backed down, sitting back in his chair without saying a word. I looked at Linda, who had been sitting silently not far away, and smiled and nodded to reassure her. Linda pursed her lips, avoided my gaze, and lowered her head. Just as I was about to throw another tantrum, Sam's father, Bob, appeared. Bob was dressed in an expensive, custom-made suit, his figure tall and straight, his appearance handsome, with a sharp jawline that exuded the aloof indifference of someone in power. This was the first time I had seen Bob since I was reborn into this book. I thought Sam probably took after Bob in looks. In this redemption story, Bob was one of the coldest characters. Because he hated his wife for running off with someone else after giving birth, he ignored Sam completely. Even when Sam started his own business as an adult, Bob refused to lift a finger to help, coldly watching as Sam was swindled out of all his startup funds, without offering any assistance. After Sam achieved success, he still refused to acknowledge Sam's accomplishments. I looked at the lawyer and asked, "Did you inform him?" The lawyer nodded and said, "Something as significant as you being slapped. I definitely had to let Mr. Cooper know." I pursed my lips helplessly. Bob walked straight towards me. After seeing the slap mark on my face, he reached out and touched it with a rather harsh force, causing me to gasp in pain. Hiss, a flash of ferocity crossed Bob's eyes as he looked at Linda's father. "Did you hit her?" Linda's father was so intimidated by Bob's oppressive aura that he didn't dare to breathe heavily and instinctively nodded. In an instant, his oppressive and aggressive presence intensified so much that even I felt a sense of fear and unease. Bob instructed the lawyer, "We will absolutely not settle." After speaking, he slightly leaned forward, took my hand, and prepared to leave. I stood still, refusing to move. Bob looked at me with confusion. I pointed to Linda sitting in the corner. "I want to take her with me." I held Linda's hand as we walked out of the police station. Linda kept her head lowered the entire time. Bob opened the car door and looked at me, waiting for me to get in the car with Linda. I glanced at Linda and shook my head at Bob. "You go home first. I'll come back later." Bob's expression darkened. "The injuries on your face need to be treated." I think Bob is making a big deal out of nothing. It's just a slap, no need for medicine. Who's that delicate? Bob stared at me for a long time, and I felt uneasy under his gaze. He chuckled softly. "It's been a while, and you've become tougher. Before, you couldn't even handle a small bump without making a fuss and demanding to go to the hospital." My heart sank. The book didn't describe this stepmother much, so I didn't know her temperament. I almost gave myself away in front of those around me. I slightly raised my chin and pointed to Linda beside me. "I am actually in quite a bit of pain, but the child is frightened and needs to be comforted. Otherwise, I'm afraid something might happen." Linda timely lifted his head. Looking at Bob with his deer-like, moist eyes, Bob's mouth twitched, and after tossing out the words, "Buy the kids something good to eat," he got into the car and drove off. After Bob's car had gone far, I casually sat down on the stone pier, fumbled in my bag for the cigarette pack, lit one, and then handed one to Linda. Linda took the cigarette and casually tucked it behind his ear. I remember from the time we met until now, every time I handed her a cigarette, she would tuck it behind her ear and never smoked it. "You don't smoke?" Linda froze for a moment, then nodded. I could probably guess why Linda was pretending to be a delinquent girl, but I still asked, "Then why are you making yourself look like a delinquent girl?" Linda pursed her lips and remained silent for a long time before squeezing out a few words from the depths of her throat. "This way, no one will bully me anymore. I know that the malice of children is the purest form of evil in the world, untainted by any impurities." The bullying Linda endured at school was something I had also experienced in my youth, because I was an orphan, born to a mother but raised by no one. "Linda," I called her name. "Do you want to read?" A glimmer of light suddenly ignited in Linda's ashen eyes as she nodded firmly. "I do." I patted her head. "Then we'll focus on your studies. I'll support you, so you don't need to worry about anything." I took the cigarette tucked behind her ear, broke it in two, and threw it on the ground, crushing it under my foot. Linda's tears slid down her cheeks. She licked the salty traces from her lips. "When I grow up and earn money, I'll definitely pay you back." I patted my Hermes Himalayan diamond-encrusted Birkin bag, grinning from ear to ear. "Your sister here is rich. I can support your education for a lifetime, if you want. You don't have to pay me back." I didn't let Linda return to that filthy and chaotic lower district. I brought Linda home. Sam was only briefly surprised by Linda's appearance, quickly returning to his usual expressionless demeanor. Bob, however, asked me what exactly I was trying to do. I said, "I want to support her. She's a good kid and shouldn't lose the opportunity to receive an education, let alone have to struggle for survival at such a young age." Bob looked at me meaningfully. "I never noticed before that you were so fond of charity. Stepmother, couldn't you at least put on a show of being a wealthy woman? If you had just participated in a few charity events occasionally, that old fox Bob wouldn't have doubted me. I forced myself to stay calm. You just don't get it, do you? This is what I call scattering wealth. You've made so much money. If you don't do more good deeds and give some of it away, we'll end up losing even more money. Do you really want to end up so broke in your old age that you can't even afford a nursing home and have to live under a bridge? Bob sneered disdainfully. Feudal superstitions. I rolled my eyes. Anyway, be nicer to the kid. Last time Sam was bullied, it was Linda who stepped in to resolve it. Upon hearing Sam's name, Bob's expression darkened. Such a useless thing, actually getting bullied by a girl. I disagreed and retorted, how is being bullied a sign of uselessness? Are you saying Sam, as the victim, is at fault? It's clearly those kids who bullied him that are malicious and lack proper upbringing. Sam did nothing wrong. Just as Bob was about to speak, I delivered the final blow. Dragons beget dragons, phoenixes beget phoenixes, and turtles beget turtles. Sam sat at the desk, pressing his throbbing temples, and stared at the diary in front of him for a long time. He let out a long sigh and opened the diary. My stepmother brought Linda, my aunt, home. I'm so afraid Linda will hit me. Not only do I have a stepmother possessed by a ghost, but now I have to live under the same roof with a rebellious girl. I really want to find a Taoist priest to figure out what kind of unlucky fate I have. I bought Linda a new school uniform and threw away the narrow school pants she had altered to match the rebellious girl's style. Looking at Linda, who had returned to her youthful self, I nodded with satisfaction and continued eating my breakfast. Linda had just reached out to grab a piece of bread when Sam, sitting beside her, instinctively flinched and assumed a defensive posture. Linda looked puzzled. Nephew, what are you doing? Do you really think I, as your aunt, would hit you at the dinner table? Sam awkwardly lowered his hand, cleared his throat twice, and then began cutting the already sliced fried egg on his plate. Indeed, whether it's a dog or a person, when feeling awkward, they always pretend to be busy. The butler appeared with the phone, glanced at Sam with a complicated expression, and said, Madam, the young master's. He paused, seemingly searching for the right words. The young master's biological mother called and said she wants to speak with him for a few words. My heart sank. I remembered this part of the original story. It was after receiving this call that Sam's mood became unusually low. Max noticed it and gave him a piece of chocolate, which made him remember Max's kindness and forget all the torment she had put him through. Sam was watching my expression, and even the usually oblivious Linda seemed to be holding his breath. I instructed, put it on speakerphone, answer it right here. The butler put the phone on speaker and handed it to Sam. Sam's biological mother's voice came from the other end of the line. Sam, how have you been lately? Sam glanced at me and replied, I'm doing well. I sipped my coffee slowly, listening to them exchange pleasantries and chat about everyday matters, but my hand gripping the coffee cup unconsciously tightened, because I knew that this woman, who had abandoned Sam and run off with another man, was about to stab him in the heart. Mom gave birth to a little brother. If you have time, you could come help take care of him. Mom is really exhausted taking care of the baby all by herself. After hearing these words, Sam's expression turned somewhat bewildered, and his eyes instantly welled up with tears. He looked as if he could shatter at any moment. The sense of brokenness in the male lead of a redemption story is truly unmatched. I immediately grabbed the phone and started my verbal attack. You heartless creature, born but not raised by a mother, you abandoned your child and ran off with another man. Fine, but all these years, you never once came to see Sam. Now you've had another child and think raising kids is tough. So you want Sam to be your nanny. Keep dreaming. My son is going to be a pillar of society, not some free nanny for an ungrateful mother like you. If you can't afford a nanny, then don't fucking have kids. Stuff that brat back where it came from. I'm telling you, if you dare contact my son to be your nanny again, I'll beat the kidney stones out of you and string them into a necklace for my son to wear. I didn't wait for the other side to speak and hung up the phone directly. Sam's expression had shifted from confusion to shock. Smack, smack, smack. Linda clapped with admiration. Sis, you're just too good at scolding. You'll always be my sis, Sam said very softly. Thank you. I waved my hand. Forget the verbal thanks. When you make it big in the future, remember to take care of me. While I was pretending to read in the study, Linda knocked and came in. I continued reading my book without looking at her. Linda's voice sounded hesitant. I have something to say. I turned the page of my book and softly responded, Linda took a deep breath. I need peace and quiet, time to study. Is there any way to make his time inside as long as possible? I looked up at her. Linda's eyes were red, ever since I can remember. He hasn't been a good husband, not even a good father. He's an alcoholic and a compulsive gambler. Almost every day, debt collectors come to our house, and everything of value has already been sold. If he can't find money, he hits me and my mom. Now my mom is with someone else, and her current partner protects her. After mom left, he thought about selling me so he could have money to keep gambling. I need peace and quiet. I need to be able to sleep soundly without worrying that someone might suddenly burst in, drag me out of bed, and beat me to death like a dog. Tears slid from her eyes, and her voice trembled with emotion. Can you help me? The study fell into a dead silence in an instant, the air almost frozen. After a long while, I closed the book, stood up, and walked over to her. I held her in my arms, gently stroking her back. I made a promise. I won't let him bother you. Linda burst into tears in my arms, as if she wanted to cry out all the grievances she had endured over the years. Why is it that only the main characters in redemption stories can be saved? Supporting characters like Linda also deserve to be saved. The lawyer has collected substantial evidence of Linda's father's crimes, including organizing illegal gambling and intimidating others. It shouldn't be a problem to keep him detained until Linda graduates from university. Linda's life is getting back on track, but what worries me now is Sam. Since that phone call, Sam has become increasingly silent. Bob found out about that phone call. You shouldn't have stooped to her level, and you definitely shouldn't have let Sam answer her call. Bob was extremely agitated, just like any man who had been cheated on. That woman is a lunatic, a psychopath. Sam carries her genes, and sooner or later, she'll go crazy just like her. I retorted. Sam is perfectly normal. He's not a madman. Bob became even more agitated. He has that woman's blood running through his veins. How could he not be a madman? It's only a matter of time. I had no desire to deal with an emotionally charged man, so I simply left the room, unexpectedly. The moment I pushed the door open, I saw Sam standing in the hallway. We locked eyes, and he quickly averted his gaze and hurried away. He must have heard everything. I took Sam to see a psychologist. When the psychologist invited him into the consultation room, Sam turned back and gave me a deep look. The emotions in his eyes were complex, as if he was disappointed, yet also as if he had long anticipated this day. I couldn't understand the complex emotions in his eyes. I just hoped his psychotherapy would work. I sat in the waiting room, quietly waiting for Sam to finish his consultation. After the consultation, the psychologist said that throughout the entire session, Sam didn't utter a single syllable. I silently listened to the psychologist's feedback and scheduled the next appointment. Sitting in the car, Sam stared out the window without saying a word. I didn't try to make conversation with him either, instead taking him to get ice cream. When you're feeling down, something sweet always helps. Sam opened his diary, pressing the pen so hard it seemed about to pierce through the paper. My stepmother took me to see a psychologist, like everyone else. She also thinks I'm mentally ill, that I'll go crazy without warning, just like my mother did. A teardrop fell on the paper, blurring the handwriting. I thought she would be different from others. Sam's psychological counseling continued. He refused to speak until the 5th session. After the 6th counseling session ended, we had a fierce argument. Sam came out of the counseling room, looked at me, and curled his lips into a smile, both mocking and sorrowful. Why did you take me to see a psychologist? Do you also think I'm mentally ill? I shook my head and spoke calmly. Your father dislikes you. Your mother abandoned you and left for a distant place when you were young, and when she contacted you again, it was to ask you to help take care of her other child. You never received any parental love. You were bullied at school, and you lived cautiously in an age when you should have been free to make mistakes. Even though you are lactose intolerant, you still drink the milk the nanny prepares for you every morning. You can't even bring yourself to say a simple, "I don't want milk." You are not mentally ill. You are just a child with a wounded heart. You must learn to save yourself, to rescue your own soul. Self-rescue is the best redemption. You must, through your own efforts, cultivate yourself into a gentle yet strong adult. Seeking psychological treatment and accepting help from professionals is the first step you need to take. I don't want you to be so easily moved by a few insincere words of care, superficial motivational quotes, or occasional gestures of concern that you end up pouring your heart out and giving your all to others. I don't want you to fall in love with your bully in the future, repeating the tragic experiences of your youth. Of course, I didn't say that out loud. If I can't change the course of the plot, and Sam later reunites with Max according to the original storyline and falls in love with her, My words would become a prophecy for him. I'm afraid that instead of scattering glutinous rice on me, he might just burn me alive. Redemption stories should never be about the author symbolically granting the protagonist, after enduring suffering, someone who once tormented them but now claims to love them. A simple, I love you, should not be enough for the protagonist to forgive those who once bullied them or to overlook the experiences that caused countless nights of despair. It is natural for a person to harbor thoughts of revenge, especially when the pain they endured was real, nor is it necessary to forgive everything. Forgiving everything is not the main theme of life, nor is it the ultimate destination of life. Sam can forgive Max, but he cannot fall in love with her without hesitation after being repeatedly hurt by her. That is not love. It is Stockholm Syndrome. It is a condition that requires psychiatric treatment. A person is an independent individual, so why must one be redeemed by another? We should learn to redeem ourselves. Become your own savior. Don't wait for a deity to descend. Don't wait for another person to fall from the sky and use love to redeem your broken self. Love is not everything. Sam's tears fell unconsciously, his lips pressed tightly together. After a long time, he asked me hoarsely, "Can I have Coke for breakfast tomorrow?" I like Coke. The corner of my mouth twitched. "No, you can have soy milk." Tisk. What a cheeky kid. Sam wrote in his diary, "My stepmother said I'm not mentally ill, and starting tomorrow, I don't have to drink milk anymore. I can finally stop running to the bathroom. I like my current stepmother and hope the ghost will continue to possess her." Linda's academic performance improved quickly, and Sam finally started speaking during his psychotherapy sessions. At dinner time, Linda and I sat at the dining table, waiting for Sam, but he never showed up. Linda glanced at his watch and seemed to recall something. After school, I saw Max hanging out with a group of people from outside the school. Damn it, Linda and I quickly stood up and rushed to the car. Before leaving, I didn't forget to call the bodyguard. I remembered that in the book, Max and the others always bullied Sam in an abandoned warehouse. I stepped hard on the accelerator and drove straight to the warehouse. Before even entering the warehouse, I heard Max's voice. "Tisk, why isn't your stepmother here to protect you anymore?" Max's tone turned suggestive. "Didn't your stepmother used to ignore you? Why is she so protective of you now? Did you please her in bed?" A burst of raucous laughter erupted in the warehouse, just as I was about to charge in. Linda kicked the warehouse door open. Bodyguards rushed up from behind us. After they stormed into the warehouse, the thugs, seeing the well-trained, burly bodyguards, scattered in panic, leaving only Max behind. Linda rushed over and delivered a flying kick, sending Max flying 2 meters away. "You shameless scoundrel, do you think everyone is like you, needing to please others in bed to get attention?" Linda bent down, grabbed Max by the collar, and slapped him twice in quick succession. The sound was so sharp I wondered if Linda's hands were made of iron. Max didn't react in time. He was kicked and then slapped twice. I quickly went over to help Sam, who was kneeling on the ground and had been beaten to the point of being disoriented, and dialed 911. This time, I will definitely make Max pay a painful price. Sam's beautiful and delicate face was bruised and swollen. He struggled to open his eyes, and upon realizing it was me, he whimpered like a child. "It hurts. I knew you and Auntie would come to save me." After saying that, he lost consciousness. After handing Sam over to the bodyguard, I walked toward Max. Max watched me approach, looking somewhat frightened, but her words remained defiant. What do you want? You had this woman hit me earlier. I will definitely call the police." I looked down at her disheveled state and sneered. "If I can't make sure you end up in jail today, then the Cooper family's 3 generations in J City have been for nothing." Only then did Max realize I was serious, glaring at me with hatred. "I'm a minor. There's nothing you can do to me." Linda slapped the back of her head hard. "Ignorant of the law, you better not bully others. Use this time to read more books. You have to bear criminal responsibility once you turn 16, and you're already 17 now." The light in Max's eyes instantly faded as the police filed in and took her away. Although Sam was seriously injured, fortunately, he was young and recovered quickly. Linda visits him at the hospital every day after school, instantly sharing interesting stories from school. As I stood at the door, ready to enter the ward, I heard Sam say, "Thank you for protecting me that day." I stopped my hand from pressing the door handle and chose to eavesdrop. Is this the beginning of some pure youth romance film?" Linda replied. "Well, I took your money back then and promised to protect you, even though my dad took it all away that same night. Besides, you're my big nephew. It's only right for your aunt to protect you." "Great, the youthful romance is gone, replaced by a family drama. Max was smoothly sentenced. I warned Sam, if you dare to pick her up or fall in love with her after Max gets out of prison, I'll kill you. Sam looked at me as if I were an idiot. My brain hasn't been kicked by a donkey. Why would I ever pick up someone who bullied me after she gets out of prison? Linda also chimed in, sis. You should read fewer domineering CEO novels. They're not good for your brain. I curled my lips, turned around, went back to my room, lay on the bed, and started listening to my domineering CEO audiobook. You told me to read less. Fine, I'll just listen then. Linda, Sam, you sure know how to nitpick. Time flew by quickly, and Linda and Sam grew into adults. As a mother, I feel much more at ease. After Linda successfully started her job at the hospital, I bought her an apartment nearby and even got her a car. However, she shook her head and refused, saying, I can't accept this. I've already received too much help from you over the years. Besides, as an independent woman, I should acquire these things through my own efforts. I chuckled lightly and said, don't be constrained by the notion of so-called independent women. You can accept any kind of help. Men can accept support and gifts from their parents, superiors, and society. And no one says they are not independent. I see you as my daughter, so you can accept everything I give you with a clear conscience. I forced the car keys into her palm and said, it's only natural for a mother to buy things for her daughter. Sam also successfully graduated from school and began his entrepreneurial journey. Although I always say I need to save myself, what mother doesn't make plans for her child? So, using the plot I knew, I perfectly avoided the tragedy of Sam being completely swindled by his business partner. Actually, when I think about it, I didn't really do much. I don't know why Sam suddenly stopped working with him. Perhaps after all these years of being together, he has started to develop a telepathic connection with me, his mother. Sam resentfully opened his diary. My idiot partner actually wants to set me up with Linda, but she's my aunt. Partnering with someone so clueless and brainless will probably bankrupt me. Forget it, I'm not cooperating anymore. If I lose money, I won't be able to make offerings to my mom. I'll get scolded for being unfilial, so it's better to avoid the risk. I heard there's a new model released this month. I'll go buy one for my mom tomorrow, and one for my aunt too, or else I'll get beaten up. P.S. The Taoist priest said I have a fortunate fate. I really wanted to punch him at that moment. He should remember that it's the law that protected him, not my good manners. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.